Well, here's an application of graphing. So not only do you need the graph, so we're going to have to draw the graph and then make a function for that graph. And then after that, even answer the question. So first, start sketching the graph. So it goes from a low of 45 degrees to a high of 75 degrees. And before I go on with the rest of the question, I'm going to find out what's in the middle. So with a 75 and a 45, a 75 plus a 45, find the average. That's 60. So right in the middle is 60. And if you go from here to there, that's 15. Or if you go from here to there, that's also 15. So that means that the amplitude is 15. So actually, I can start writing that down. This is the y-axis information. The amplitude is equal to 15. And the vertical shift is this middle number right here in black. That equals 60. Okay, now it reaches 75 degrees at 3 p.m. So this would be midnight, and then 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., etc., etc., etc. Or what I could do is, I guess I could call that 3 p.m., 4 p.m., etc. So I'm going to do that. So this is like 1, 2, 3. And then just keep in mind this is in the afternoon. So it's going to go from 75 at the high. And then basically this is over a day. The temperature is going to fluctuate. And then it's going to go down to 45. And then if it follows a perfect trig function, it will go back up to 75 the next day. Of course, weather's not that predictable, but we only have perfect trig functions to work with at this time. And then this would be 24 hours later. So this is over a whole 24-hour period, which means that if you're on the number line, this is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, etc., which means 24 hours later, this is the number 27. Then, let's see, I don't think I have to put what's in the middle. Well, I know it would be half a day, and half a day is 12 hours. So if you add on 12, you get this, and if you add on another 12, you get this. Okay, so it wasn't that much work. Got it. Now what about the X information? One is that we're talking about a 24-hour period, so the period equals 24. And it got shifted to the right by 3, so that's called the phase shift. And you could either say 3 to the right, or you could just write a positive number 3. Now the next thing we need to do is take this 24 and use the formula 2 pi divided by b is how you figure out the period. So that's where the 24 comes in. And then you could multiply both sides by b, and it would look like 2 pi equals 24b. And next, divide both sides by this 24 right here. So b would equal 2 pi divided by 24. And when you reduce, the b will be pi over 12. Okay, we've got all of the pieces of information. Now, what graph is this? It's either sine or cosine. Since it's starting at the top and then going down, that's cosine. So it's going to be cosine. And then it needs to be pi over 12. And when you have a phase shift, you have to write it in factored form, x minus 3. So you can't just put pi over 12x and then without parentheses say minus 3, because this x minus 3, that's what gives you this 3 right here. So that needs to be in its own parentheses right there. And then on the outside, it gets multiplied by the amplitude. And then the vertical shift, either put plus 60 at the front or plus 60 at the end. Okay, you may have heard this one before. Now let's use the graphing calculator and see if I got it right. 15 cosine of pi over 12. In parentheses, there's an x minus 3. Put 2 parentheses. And then plus 60. Change the window so that it looks like this. X goes from 3 to 27. Down here, I'll just have it go in ones like this does. And the y values need to go from 45 to 75. 45 to 75. And then we should see just this graph. Starts at the top, just barely touches at the bottom, finishes right at the top right corner. Perfect. Now what? What's the temperature at 8 p.m.? So that's why this was important that I wrote down this is p.m. So 8 p.m., so this would be 4 p.m., 5, 6, 7, 8 p.m. would be right here. So that means all we need to do is plug in an 8, and then that will tell us the temperature. Usually on problems like this, if it was to start with midnight, and this is 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., if this was a.m. right here, and this said p.m., you would need to change this to military time. So this would be 20. You would add on 12 for p.m. But because I made this p.m., then 8 p.m. is just an 8. So that means just substitute an 8 into the function. And my estimate is that it's like, I don't know, 55, 56 degrees. So 15 cosine, and then pi over 12, parentheses, 8 minus 3 is 5, double parentheses, plus 60. Oh, it's actually 63 degrees. 63.882 degrees. And even that answer I can double check. Look at the graph, go to trace, plug in an 8, and hit enter. And it says you should have gotten 63.882.